it's no accident that the word evolution when words are significant because all words are we created language. Man named everything. I mean, as it says in the Bible, and words are combinations or things that demonstrate relationship. And if we know how to look at a word, and this is where you hear, the root of, and they give a description of it. It came from the Greek, and it was so and so. They're trying to help you to understand. Intuitively speaking, there are clues inherent within words if we know how to read them, or if we know how to look for them. In evolution, the first half, which is evolve, is of course love spelt backwards, and evolution, forgot the V. Evolution is movement as a spiral motion. So it's love that spirals, and the significance of spiraling as opposed to, the reason we do this instead of this is because there's no momentum. Momentum can't be gained, plus there's no pressure in this system that creates a form of threshold effect and thrust and thrust and thrust, which is what creates momentum in a situation, which it becomes a self-contained system when we have momentum, because it'll sit there and it serves to power itself. It doesn't need an outside force to power it. And also, this movement, if viewed, we talked about the chakra system, which had this type of the snake-like movement going up. If viewed from down, looks like this, and love, as it in a spiral motion, is what moves from planes of existence to planes of existence, forming a hierarchy, or moving up into higher dimensions of itself through its ability to fully integrate all the lower areas as the basis for the next evolution, or the next plane of existence, that will then act to exalt it into a higher state where it forms another evolution. See, every plane of existence is the summation of the plane below it, which becomes the basis for the new plane of growth. So, and this only takes place by synthesizing and summarizing, or kind of like fully assimilating experience into a base knowledge that's not based on the actual situation that created the memory, but is actually based on how you integrated that experience by taking the knowledge out of it, or abstracting what the lesson was of that experience that revealed the knowledge that the experience was allowing you to apprehend. And this is where we get the idea of experiences or lessons, right? You've got to look for the lessons in an experience. And some people don't like hearing that, but when we understand that we only gain knowledge through experience, it makes sense, right? And we can certainly see that, I take certain ideas or certain qualities and I produce an experience of them, and that experience gives me knowledge of those type of situations. And if I fully integrate that, if I see the lesson, see what knowledge the situation held for me, I can then integrate that into my mind, my knowledge base, my experience in life, and it now forms a higher level of knowledge that I can now walk forward and create more experiences out of. But it doesn't serve as, a trigger that becomes a bad memory, that every time I go out and something happens and it reminds me of that experience. See, what that's showing us in that situation is that they did not perceive the situation as having knowledge. They did not perceive the situation as an aspect of their own doing. I mean, we play a part. Every experience we have, we're playing a part in it, right? So they're not seeing it for a lesson, for a way of obtaining knowledge that they can use to better themselves, or to make better decisions, or to create healthier experiences, however you want to look at it, in the future. And instead, they get stuck on that experience as being quote-unquote bad or good, and then it becomes a bad memory, and then it's triggerable, and they hold it in the system as a fixed pattern rather than assimilating it and processing it by seeing the knowledge that the situation was teaching them or allowed them to learn as a result. So again, it's all about how we perceive things and what that allows us as a result. So, but this, it's no, in love, we gotta, this is a greatly overused word that has lost all but, I mean, has practically completely lost its original meaning. We perceive love as an emotion, and it's a love, you know, when we love something, we adore it, we admire it, and while all those things can be love, what you want to notice is that what we love, love has an expansive feeling to it, right? When we love something, we gravitate towards it, we expand around it, we step into a mode of really wanting to like give and experience that more. But love as a universal principle is expansion of the self that is unimpeded, uninhibited, there's no resistance. So love as an emotion, here's another really huge misperception that we make, is we think that emotion is, we get it confused with the idea of a feeling. But an emotion is energy in motion as defined by the two poles, which creates a range that can be measured in degrees, right, of where the movement is within that pole. And again, we got a positive and we have a negative. So an emotion, and if we call the positive love, which expands, the negative we would call fear, which contracts. So emotion is the behavior that animates a feeling. A feeling is actually the pattern that says, you know, I felt sad, I felt, you know, confident, I felt excited and enthusiastic. The enthusiasm, the idea of enthusiasm is a form of, it's a behavior that we do, right? We don't have emotions, we do emotions. So if I'm saying I'm enthusiastic, I'm holding a thought in my mind that represents enthusiasm, right? That causes me to feel enthusiastic. And the emotion that I'm embracing is love, which causes me to expand or eagerly move towards that, willingly step into it with an excited state. Whereas if I'm feeling, you know, sad, scared, apprehensive, that type stuff, the feeling as a pattern of behavior is apprehensive. How do you behave when you're apprehensive? You behave a certain way, and it's hooked up to the emotion of fear, which causes me to pull back, contract, not do anything, right? So emotion is really energy in motion as far as a basic movement that expands whatever we attach it to. Expands or contracts it. So anything that love is attached to is a positive aspect of the pole that serves to evolve a system is the emotion of love, is the emotion that grows the idea as a pattern. Just like we're born into the world as a seed, and the seed can be perceived as the soul, or a patterning, a dynamic, energetic patterning of sorts that has qualities and traits, and what we call spirit as the positive. So we could say, you know, for example, we don't have to get stuck on this stuff, but we could use for an example, let's say that the feminine is the vessel, the pattern, the body, so to speak. The masculine is the spirit, which is just the exciting, initiating force that animates and grows through expansion. So the positive enters into and excites the pattern into behavior, right? And as a result, grows it and expands it through an evolutionary process that becomes what we call destiny. So when we understand these basic ideas and how things move and how they flow, it helps us to form a perception that says this bottom rung, as we call it, is actually of the same nature as the top rung, but it's just at different parts of its evolution or different parts of its behavior, or it's performing a different function of the whole, instead of saying that, experiencing it as being apart and separate from the other. So in the same way that the dual nature is the unified nature, that is behaving, that's moving, that's expressing something or expressing in some way, and that's absolutely necessary for it. So it helps us to recognize errors, we call them fundamental errors in thinking, because a system is whole and complete in itself, and that universal principles just describe behavior. If we start off with a basic idea that's born out of an error, i.e., duality is an illusion, and the unified state is the desired state, without recognizing that they're actually the same thing, that error is continued through every perception that comes out of that thought. So it doesn't self-correct, in other words, because it's a contained system of thought whose only mode, its only motivation or ability to express is to continue expressing different aspects of that same idea. So an idea that's born out of a fundamental illusion expresses that same error, that same illusion, throughout the whole thought process, or throughout the whole paradigm or process that it demonstrates or that it expresses. It never self-corrects because every aspect of the system is based on the foundation that it was born out of, right? The basis burrs, starts the motion of the initial pattern. This is like a pattern as a dynamic that burrs an idea that just creates a continuous flow of itself into higher and broader, more expansive forms of expression, but it continues to express the same nature. It continues to express the same basic idea that launched it. So, so that's a way to look at that love in a spiraling motion. And of course, we can also see that this is like the movement of galaxies, right? And then we have the dual galaxies that actually are spin-offs, that actually, the basic fundamental movement of life is what we call love that expands in spirals. So the number one universal principle is the principle of evolution, which describes the basic movement that kicks everything into motion.